What's up, guys? Welcome back to Zilla MMA. I am your host, as always, the Zilla. I want to start this episode like I always do, and that's thanking you guys, the viewers. Love you guys. Please go like, subscribe, share with your friends. Leave comments down below about what else you like to see in our videos. Really can't do this without you. We'll go ahead and get started on this. This is just a quick recap video of the Allen versus Craig card that we had this weekend, which actually turned out to be a better card than I really was expecting it to be, if I'm being honest. Didn't have that high of hopes for this card, but pretty solid here. Obviously, no real content this week just because there's no card going on. Obviously, I'll break something in if there's some news that needs to be talked about, but with the holiday and everything, probably won't have too much going on. And then next week, the card will be in Austin. I'm going to fly into Austin for that card. Going to go see it live and in person, so expect a lot of content, a lot of information coming from me that week because I'm really excited about that card. So, with all that being said, we'll go ahead and jump into this one, starting with the main event, which was Brendan Allen versus Paul Craig. Kind of the mismatch we thought it would be here. And I'll go ahead and recap the record we had and everything on this card as well. Pretty solid, but kind of weird with our ability to make money on this card. We went 10-3-1, 1-1 on our single bets, 1-1 on our parlays, 1-1 on prize picks. So didn't give a lot of picks out last week, and just some weird losses on here that kept it from being super profitable. I sprinkled in some other bets individually after the fact and came out with a little bit of profit here. Probably could have been a lot more, though, if we didn't have some particular fights go against us. But we'll get to that here in a second. So as I was saying, the mismatch in the Allen versus Craig card or fight that we thought it would be, a little surprised to see how much Allen was taking this to the ground, just with that really being the only path to victory for Craig, going down there and getting the submission. Threatened it once with a calf splicer in the first round, but that was about his only high point. Allen just able to land some big shots, both from the feet and on the ground, and then threatened to finish multiple times before finally wrapping up the neck. So just kind of what we expected here. I don't know how impactful this is on the division and going forward, but yeah, Craig takes the loss in this spot. Jumping into our co-main, Morales versus Matthews. Morales gets the decision in this one. Just so long and fast and powerful from start to finish. Just put on a clinic. Looked just about as fresh in the third as he did in the first. About halfway through the second, Matthews really did start to land some, though. We did a good job using the counter to land on Morales, but Morales just seemed to get the better of the exchanges. Neither of the fighters really using much of their wrestling here, so it came down to what we discussed in the prediction video, and that's the lack of volume that you get from Matthews. You just can't depend on him to go out and get a decision in this spot. And so with Morales having more volume here, he was able to go out. Not the dominant showcase I'm sure that he wanted, but he definitely has a good skill set that's going to be impressive, even as the competition he continues to face continues to increase. So liked what I saw from Morales here. He's able to go out, get the decision in this spot. Next one that I told you I was very excited for, and we were spot on with this one as well. Very impressive fight from Hooper, and it's exactly what we predicted. Hooper had more paths to victory here. He was solid on the feet for the brief time they were there, and then Levitt just seemed to completely underestimate the jiu-jitsu game of Hooper. He was very willing to take it to the ground, seemed kind of reckless down there. Just kind of wrestled with him pretty recklessly, and we saw the dexterity and jiu-jitsu of Hooper on display down there on the ground. Great finish in the first round, and we love to see it from Hooper. Just kind of took some ridicule early in his career, being such a young, undeveloped fighter who obviously had some skill, but was kind of undersized, kind of didn't have the strength. People thought his striking wasn't good enough to be there. And now developing into what looks like a legitimate UFC fighter. You've got to love it for the kid. So great win there for Chase Hooper. Talbot versus Aguirre. Aguirre actually looked pretty good here early in the fight. He got a takedown immediately, controlled Talbot the entire first round, even threatening a sub a few times. Uh, the the issue is from there, Aguirre made it pretty clear that he didn't really have any interest in fighting this on the feet and started to force the takedowns, just shooting blindly, even trying to pull guard at one point. And this really opened up for Talbot to land the big shots that he wanted to land. Landed some on the feet, landed it in ground and pound. Really just wore down on Aguirre. And by the late third, there was just nothing really left from him. Was able to use ground and pound to work to the neck and get the sub in this spot. So not a terrible display from Aguirre in that first round, but definitely shows some flaws in his game that is gonna be exposed going forward. So good fight for Talbot here, though. Way to go out, use that power, and get the win here. Next, a pretty interesting women's fight, actually. Hebus versus Pinheiro in this spot. And Pinheiro landed a lot of the big shots very early, but very looping shots. Did a lot of damage to Rivas, and had me really concerned early in this fight, if I'm being honest. She was using her movement really well to keep Hebus from landing clean and looked pretty dominant in the first. But then in that second round, Hebus came back out, found her range, used leg kicks to kind of slow down Pinheiro and keep her in front of her during the fight. And then she's really throwing more combinations while coming back at her, just single shots. So that really started to pay off in that second round. And then in the third, Pinheiro just completely gassed. Ribas continued to just fight her fight. She looked the same from start to finish. She'd taken the damage and was still coming forward and throwing. And just able to land some big shots there at the end, get the finish, fought through that adversity, and got to the end. And so really exciting to see for her. Another one we picked correct, so great fight there. And then we come to the highlight of the evening for me. And this is because this is one I preached on in the predictions that I was really, really big on Orolbai. And that was not to discredit Medic. Just the clip, the tape I'd watched on Orolbai was so impressive to me. And he just had absolutely everything I'd hoped for from him and more. In fact, we'll get to it in a minute. I'll go ahead and talk a little more about Orolbai first. Just completely unrelenting with the takedowns. So strong, such a great gas tank, just absolutely ragdolling Medic out there. Flashed his power when he got in close with him. And I didn't even think this was really that bad of a performance from Medic. Medic looked good. I just thought Orolbai looked like an incredibly seasoned UFC fighter already. I can't wait for an opportunity to bet on him again. And because I enjoyed watching him so much, I'm really trying to have more fun with these videos. I've kind of shot it pretty straight so far, trying to give you my picks, trying to give you analysis, just because that's one element of this that I know people are really looking for. They want to have picks, listen to knowledgeable people, learn more about these fighters. But I have my biases just like everybody else. And I like to have fun with these fights, and I like to I have fighters that I like and fighters that I don't like. And so I decided to open up this new segment. And I'm going to try and do this just as we go along. I'm not going to add fighters that I already have feelings about just because there's tons of fighters that I've grown to love and grown to hate. I'm going to try and do this off of performance going forward. And this segment is Zilla's Heroes and Zeros. And I know it's a little corny. I think it's pretty cool, though. We're going to build a list. We're going to have the heroes, the guys we want to continuously bet on, the guys who we have a lot of faith in to go out and execute for us. We love their game. And then the zeros are just those absolute, just don't belong in the UFC. Fade them every chance you get. Just trying to make money on the other side of that fighter. You see them as the fraud that they really are. And, you know, this is another one. I'll go ahead and get this off the screen now. I think you get the gist. This is another thing where I'd really like to get viewers involved. down in the comments. Leave your heroes, leave your zeros. They can help me build up what we're doing with that. And so these are just the fighters that we're going to pound when we have the heroes. We're going to pound them. We're going to get the money behind them. And then the zeros, we're going to fade and fade hard. And so I thought that's a good spot to start it because Orolbai is a guy that is just coming into the UFC that I was really high on after watching all his tape that came out and really performed and impressed me. And I just love moments like that in UFC where you're just really right about a fighter coming in. And so I thought this was a cool way to display it. And hopefully it's something I can continue doing going forward. I thought it was a pretty cool concept. So, like I said, if you've got any suggestions for fighters, down in the comments. But we'll continue here. Going into Brito versus Pierce. This is a fight we were on the wrong side of. And it looked pretty good for us early. Brito's certainly explosive, but Pierce was doing a good job neutralizing it with his grappling, was solidly in control. But then halfway through the second, it really seemed to turn when he lost some composure. He was taking what he was saying were punches to the back of the head. The ref had no interest in it. Brito was kind of mocking him for complaining about it. And then I just feel like he wasn't fully focused in from that point forward. He was kind of on, I want to beat you up mode rather than I'm fighting my smart fight, which is why we were backing him, because he's such a smart fighter, because we thought he was going to fight the more polished fight here. And Brito ended up working his way back to the feet, and as they begin to separate, locks up a ninja choke, gets the finish. Heard some things about Pierce having a bad neck, which might be why he tapped so early in this spot, but regardless, I mean, tight choke. Very impressive from Brito. This is one that we were a little back and forth on, but I thought we were on the right side for most of it. Unfortunately, it doesn't go our way here, so a good win there for Brito. Then we have Johnson versus, they pronounced it a few different ways on the broadcast, Anheliger. And he did fine here, but Johnson really used that length he had to his advantage, used the front kicks and knees to the body to take control of the fight, was clearly the better fighter, and just used that lanky body, even to reverse positions on the ground multiple times, which really isn't his forte necessarily. Certainly moments for the other side, but Johnson seemed to control the ground in the third, was able to reverse the position, and with about a minute left, and Anheliger just had nothing left. Johnson was able to wrap up the neck. Just a really good performance here from Jose Johnson, one that we were on that side of. Yet another submission on this card, so good for Jose Johnson here. Duncan versus Tylulin. Tylulin came in with a good game plan, rushed Duncan and put pressure on him early in the fight. Had us scared in the first few minutes, but Duncan used his grappling to land close and wear down Tylulin through the first round. Really kind of held him up against the cage for a lot of that round and was able to regather himself. And then in the second, just able to really dictate where the fight took place. Tylulin still landing, but he just didn't stand a chance with the power and combinations coming at him from Duncan. Duncan just clearly the better striker in this spot. So able to get the finish there. Good for CLD. Parkin versus Machado, a heavyweight bout that goes the distance. Parkin doing a good job for us here, just relentlessly landing takedowns for 3 rounds. Always love to see that when you're backing someone. He obviously came in with a game plan to shut down the unorthodox striking style of Machado, and while it wasn't all that exciting, it does get us the win. And credit to Machado for his ability to work back to his feet repeatedly. And honestly, credit to both these heavyweights. You don't normally see heavyweights be able to go 3 rounds and actually be fighting a competent fight at the end of it. Both of them seem to do that here, so credit to both of them in that spot. This is the one that really messed up most things for us, anyone who backed my stuff, as well as most people in the MMA community. And that's Sergey, the big dog here, beating Alexander. A really unfortunate fight for us, lost us that one parlay. And from the start, you really felt pretty good about it, if I'm being honest. The skill gap was pretty prevalent right from the jump. Alexander was just so much faster. He was landing his shots, but I think he got a little overconfident here just about how easy he was able to control this fight from the beginning. And there was a moment where he falls to his back after landing a kick and then recklessly just stands up without protecting himself and just left himself open to a knockout shot early in the first. Goes out, can happen to anyone. That's why, we always talk about the risks of betting in MMA because that can happen to anybody at any moment. It doesn't matter how big of a favorite you are. He came in here. I think I had him in my parlay at minus 500 and takes the loss here. Credit to Sergey taking advantage of the opportunity. You can't take anything away from him. He went out there, was given the opportunity, and won the fight. So good for him, but tough one for us in the betting community. Then we have Perez versus Pudilova. Perez just was clearly the stronger fighter in this spot. Just start to finish, you saw it. She did a good job closing the distance. Didn't let the longer fighter take advantage. Created takedowns for herself. Used kicks effectively. She did a good job controlling the fight through the first 2 rounds. Did have looks like she came in with some kind of injury around one of her eyes that had one of her eyes completely sealed shut. In the middle of this fight, Pudilova able to get on top and do some work in the 3rd round, but still a pretty clear 29-28 for Perez in this spot. Really, really weird one here near the beginning of this card. Mata versus Ogden. And this is the no contest on the card. Sure, this will be appealed if it hasn't been already. Mata just looked very one-dimensional in this fight, not using his kicks, no body work, not many combinations. He's just out there headhunting, and Ogden looked very sharp. He used the threat of the takedown. He was popping Mata with the jab to keep him out of range, and it was clearly really frustrating for Mata. But the ending of this fight, Ogden very much on his way to a 30-27 decision, but a bad stoppage in an arm triangle where it appeared that Ogden had it locked up. Mata was not out. That was obvious afterwards. I think the announcing crew, if you were watching this, were a little tougher on the ref in this fight than they should have been. Mata given 3 opportunities to show some sign of life. Has a free hand where he could give a thumbs up. I know they say that in that position, you're not worried about that type of thing, but his legs are free. He could have, tapped his heel and struck his opponent with it, done something to show that he is awake, and chose not to do it. It's a little tough. The issue being here, though, I'm not 100% sure. I think it changes from commission to commission. Not 100% how the ruling works here, but in a stoppage of that situation, I think they normally would go to the scorecards from that point, in which case Ogden had been very dominant. I don't think it's fair that on this little technicality, Mata's going to be able to get off without a loss in this spot. So as much as I was on Mata, I was on the other side. I don't think it's right. I think Ogden should get the win for this fight. Definitely should get his win money. Haven't seen whether or not that happened. He made a pretty big deal about it in the cage for obvious reasons. It's a large sum of money for these fighters. So, just a really weird one in that spot. And then the first one on the card, the one dog play single play that we had, and that was on Charles Johnson. Charles just showed he really can't handle guys with elite wrestling, and we had questioned before this fight whether Estevam fell in that category or not, and he was very consistent with his takedown game, aggressive, kept Charles down for a lot of the fight. And so he did gas pretty hard about halfway through the second. Charles not really able to take advantage of that until the third. But at that point, Charles pretty gassed himself, was able to land some on the feet, steal that third round. But going forward in the future, something to watch with Estevam is that gas tank. I'm a little concerned about what I was seeing late in that fight. Lucky for him, Charles didn't have anything left either. And if he had, this fight may have gone very differently. We could have been on the right side of this one if Charles had a better gas tank in that third round, able to land on Estevam. But unfortunately, he was not. So that is a loss for us in that spot. And that will conclude this card. So yeah, not a bad card here at all. Actually, I don't know how much is going to be of immediate consequence out of this card. There's some fighters with a lot of potential though that I saw here that I'm excited to see again in different spots. Obviously made it very clear one fighter in particular I like to see again, but goes for Chase Hooper as well. Chase Hooper, like I said, great performance. Can't wait to see him again. So, yeah. So that'll pretty much do it for this card. Like I said, with the holiday this week and everything, and no card this weekend, this will likely be the only video I have out this week. If there's any big breaking news where I need to put something out, obviously I will do that. And then next week we will have the fight night in Austin, which I will be attending. I will get you as much content as I can for that one. Obviously, my research is going to be probably as deep as it's ever been for that card, just because of how much interest I'm going to have in it. But other than that, please don't forget, like, subscribe, tell your friends, leave your heroes and zeros down in the comments. And until next time, see ya.